We still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
The question of taste with you, well, you've gone sour. You want the world plus everything, but you won't work an hour. And now your questions are kept creeping, and you go and buying flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy. I wanna allow it. I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. So shut your mouth.
Good morning, welcome along to Ask Stu Penman today instead of the professionals on NUFC Matters. And we've got an hour of your questions, and they're coming in thick and fast, Stu, which is always good when we do a show like this.
Good. As you say, look.
Hey, got it sorted at last.
I've got it fixed. It took us about 2 weeks to fix it, but I fixed it.
Fantastic. Well done, mate. Great stuff. Good to have you on anyway. Roger, we'll give you your question first. Stu, can you recommend a Geordie bar in Riyadh? A mate is going over for the Royal Rumble with work, and I mentioned you. Are you in the Royal Rumble, like, are you, this year?
No. Funny enough, I was in Riyadh this week when I was getting the taxi back to the airport on Thursday. I drove, the taxi drove past where they're building a stadium for the Royal Rumble. It's not going to be in the normal stadium. They're actually building one for it. But unfortunately, there's no Geordie bars. There's no bars in Riyadh. There's coffee shops and the like, but there isn't a bar, as we know it, where you can walk in and buy alcohol. So, unfortunately not. I can't help on that front.
Okay, there we go. Roger, you've got the answer direct from the horse's mouth. Let's move on. Jules never asks a question, which is in the chat this morning. She says, tomorrow marks Joelinton's 250th appearance for Newcastle United. Give us your thoughts, Stu, on his nearly 7 years at the club and his transformation into Big Joe. You should ask questions more often, Jules.
Sure. Very good question. I think it'll be the same as the majority of people at the start, where I thought, well, even not the start for the first 2 years, what have we signed? When he was playing as a centre forward, there was obviously a footballer there, but not in that position. I'm trying to think. Riviere, I think that he's for me, it was reminiscent of him. And then with Kieran Clark getting sent off against Norwich, the rest is history, as they say. He come into a combative midfielder. He was immense that season and the season after. He had a drop off last year, all barring a few games. Thankfully, one of them was the cup final. He played fantastic in, and he started this season slow, and it seemed that the knee injury was niggling at him. He's had his rest, and he's come back, and he's been outstanding for the last month or so. So long may that continue.
Okay, Jules says he's going to retire after that. Roger says, I know it's a dry country. Is there any hotel you would suggest, Stu?
Not really, to be fair. It depends which part. And where the Royal Rumble will be, it's not far from Olea. So you've got like the High Regency there. You've got the Marriott there. It won't be long, as I understand it, before the 5-star hotels will serve alcohol. But I don't think it'll be in time for the Royal Rumble, which must be in the next month or two, by what I've seen with how far on their stadium was, because it was all advertised. And to be fair, it's not far from where the PAF headquarters is either. as the crow flies. It's longer in a car because the traffic's really bad, but it's just across the flyover from where the PIF headquarters is. But unfortunately, I wouldn't say go to this bar, that bar. I haven't spent enough time in Riyadh socialising. When I'm there, it's normally for work purposes. But I will be moving to Riyadh in April. So I'll have a better idea after that where bars are, etc.
Good stuff. John says the Joelinton transformation is one of the great stories in the history of our club and might not have happened without that red card. Imagine if it had been yellow.
Yep.
Yes, very, very true. John asks a question. He says, where does Stu see the current lie of the land at our club at the minute? Is the project still on track? Has progress stalled a little in the last 18 months or so, regardless of silverware success?
If we look at it as a 4-year club together, then it's definitely on track. They've probably just done it the wrong way around. You know, season 1 should have been season 2, season 2 should have been season 1, and so on and so forth. But it has probably plateaued this year, but it is a really strange league this year. We're still up there, and I get it. There'll be people who are pessimistic. There's people who are optimistic regarding the coming months. But the good thing is we're talking at the top end of the table. We're not debating as we would have done prior to 4 years ago for the majority of the, at least 15 years prior to that. Are we going to get relegated or are we going to get promoted? The main cause of concern for most supporters now is, are we going to make Europe or not? And that, for me, is a huge shift in the mentality. And it shows the growth that's happened in 4 years. And I'd like to expect it to continue with that over the coming years as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We've got another question. Nightwave says, question for both. If the rules were as they were today, but in 2010, and we got our takeover, do you think Pardew could have been successful? My opinion, I felt he was unlucky not to win the Europa League. It's a good question. I wasn't Pardew out, Nightwaves. I've said that many times on here. I felt Pardew was the right man with the wrong owner. And obviously there was lots of rumours as to why he got the job, but at the end of the day, he did the job and he did it the best of his ability. And although I think a lot of people feel like he's, if he was chocolate, he would eat himself. I just felt at the time, he was unfortunate to lose his job. But yeah, if the rules were as they were today, could he have been successful? I don't know. I don't think Pardew would have been anywhere near Newcastle United under a takeover. I think they would have gone for a different manager, and I think he would have been given short shrift and shown the door if he'd been in place once a takeover had come in. I think he would have had as much time as Steve Bruce did. What's your thoughts, Stu?
Not too dissimilar, to be honest. I'm with you. I wasn't Pardew out, but I might have been slightly biased considering who his number 2 was. Yeah. On the occasions that I met him, he was always amiable, friendly, welcoming. He took time, polite, but that doesn't make him a good manager. But you go back to the season that we finished 5th underneath him, he was given no money to spend in the summer. Now, had that been the time a takeover had happened, it's quite possible he might have been a Mark Hughes type manager, where we'll give you a go for a bit. And there was no financial fair play restrictions then. So you never know. Taking a team that's 5th, going into Europe, etc., is a more attractive proposition what there had been any other time around that era. So I think they might have given till Christmas if they took over at the start of the season and see where they were. But he certainly would have had money to spend under this ownership at that time without the restrictions. But I agree, Steve. I think ultimately they would have upgraded the manager just like they would have the playing staff. Yeah,
okay. Some good questions coming in. Keep them coming. We'll get through as many as we can in the hour that we've got. Let's get to the next one. John Askew says, Barnes will tear you apart again, but do we still need improvement in attacking options at the other end? We seem pretty solid.
We either score a lot or concede a lot, don't we? It's, Wednesday was great where we did the scoring and not conceding. I think that we could upgrade all the time. We have to be, because if we're happy with a lot as we are now, then we're going to be where we always are, between 7th and 5th or 8th currently, but round about that way. So upgrade has to be the right type of player. It has to be the right talent, the right personality, etc. Again, if we're talking hypothetically without the shackles of financial fair play, then I'm sure we would have upgraded those positions. and we can't just be content with what we've got. We always have to strive to do better and move forward. So yes, I agree that we should be looking to upgrade all positions if possible, which it's not.
Good morning, Himanshu. He says there, what do you think of some fans who provide unsolicited certificates for fans outside of Newcastle for who is or isn't a fan based on various parameters like location, etc.? It's the first I've heard of that. Like, have you heard of that?
I don't think it's certificates. I think it's people. I might be reading it wrong, and if I say it wrong, I'm sure Himanshu will correct me, but it could be the fact that Himanshu's in India, so he may have been called not a proper fan before. I had that this week, strangely enough, from a Macam of all people, saying I don't support Newcastle, I'm not a proper fan, I don't put anybody into the club and I live abroad. And on a match day I wear a replica shirt and go at the bar. Well, I don't go at the bar in Bahrain, I watch the matches at home. And as for not giving money to the club, he needs to give his head a shake. The times I am back, it's normally having to pay corporate. And yes, I do buy the replica shirts because I always buy them direct from the club because I want to put money back into the club. I get if it's how I understand the question, there is this xenophobia, like you have to have been born in the RVI to support Newcastle. But for the last 20 odd years of living abroad, I've met people who are from Newcastle who support Newcastle. I've met people who are not from Newcastle who support Newcastle, and that's still the same nowadays. And it shouldn't be a deciding factor on where you are born or where you live. You don't get much say in where you're born, to be fair. And if you choose Newcastle United up until recently, you weren't choosing them for the success story, were you? So I get the question, and I'm sure we've gained a lot of fans globally since the takeover. I don't think we would have gained many more fans locally, but I think more fans locally who have a higher disposable income have seen the match as an attractive thing to do. It's like the in place to go. So that's probably how the crowds increased from what it was, and will likely increase again as and when there's a new stadium.
Gary said you haven't got to justify yourself to a Macam, first of all. Then he says, question for Stu. What is Stu's biggest session and what is his worst hangover?
Yeah, me. That's probably the hardest question I've been asked. I'm very fortunate. I very rarely get hangovers. I try to just stick with the same drink or just two drinks if I'm going on a big session. I don't like to mix them too much. So I'll start with the obligatory Jaeger bombs and then normally stick to one drink, whether that be gin or vodka or cider. So I don't mix them up. So that, for me, keeps us off the hangovers, and always drink a lot of water before I go to my bed. But the biggest session, there's too many to even pick one. You know, there's been like 2 or 3 day sessions where you've just got up still drunk and carried on, but most of them were away trips back in the day as well. I can't actually put my finger and say that was the biggest session without sounding too coarse. There's been a lot of them to choose one.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for the question. And the next question is from Himanshu again. He says, personally, I don't want Trippier, Shaw, Kraft or Lascelles here next season. Should we not have started rebuilding this January rather in the summer, as it is the World Cup, of course, this summer as well, which is a traditionally bad time for bringing players in?
Well, that's an idealistic world, isn't it, where we can choose who leaves and bring in who we want. But unfortunately, we don't live there, but live in that world. But I get the question. There's people who are maybe past the sell-by date, if we're being kind, or on the wrong side of their best. That's for us to progress as a club, but these people need to be upgraded. And the people mentioned probably fall into that category. That doesn't mean they haven't been valuable to us in the time playing. But if we're getting 4 out, we're not going to get much money for the 4 that was mentioned, and then we have to buy 4 players. And again, we'll go back to those acronyms, PSR, FFP, SCR, and that's stopping us doing what Himanshu would like us to do now.
Okay, and Himanshu makes a good point. He says people from all over the world can choose to be a fan of any club. There's a lot of money coming into the Premier League from abroad. And Nightwave says, for me, lads, if it's in your heart, you're a fan. It doesn't matter where you're from. I got told because I lived in Jarrow. I lived on the wrong side of the river. Therefore, I'm not a proper fan. Yeah, well, I've had
He
this
does, to be fair. He does live on the wrong side. What are you talking about? No, but it's just it's happened for years, Steve. You know, going back to the 80s and 90s, you'd see people from Northumberland, you're not really supportive of Newcastle, you know, and it's just expanded the way the Premier League's expanded. So you get people from County Durham, you get people from the Midlands, which was there's a lot of there's a big Geordie contingent in the Midlands due to the coal mining, etc. A couple of generations back. Then you had the London Mags, which is still thriving. A lot of local people go to London to work. And again, it's one of those, you're not a proper fan because you live there or you live there. But that argument will never cease as far as I'm concerned. And you know who you are. Well, I'd like to, for example, I know who I am. I know I support Newcastle. I don't really have to justify or prove to anyone. I think anyone who knows this knows my passion for the club. Just because I don't live in Newcastle now doesn't mean I can't support them. If anything, you become more dedicated, you become more embroiled in it because you want to feel closer to home, and the team's the main thing that does that apart from family. You know, so you end up being, I can't say more passionate because that's going against my argument in the first place. But you're sure you support Newcastle more, whereas at home everyone supports Newcastle. So there is little differences. But again, as I said, I was in Riyadh this week. There was a lot more Newcastle shirts on display. Me and Mrs. P were in a mall here in Bahrain yesterday, and we've seen, I think, 3 or 4 tune swaps getting paraded around. Now, they might be Saudi visitors because Bahrain gets full of visitors from Saudi Arabia at the weekends. But it's good to see because it's never been like that. There's always pockets, as Mitch Vouchers sometimes gives the numbers in Dubai, how many people are going to the supporters clubs and stuff like that for the matches. But to get them all together is a good thing. But even those numbers, I think for the cup final, there were like over 1,000 people wanting to go. But normally on a match day, they get about 200. So these people are still going elsewhere. So it's good that it's grown. And for those who are not wanting fans from abroad, we can't grow without them. Whether it's lesser evil or not, that's reality. You've got to have income streams coming from places rather than just Tyneside and the surrounding areas. It's got to come globally now for us to challenge on a global scale.
Gary says, I'll hopefully catch up with you one of these days for a drink. Roger wants to know if you're having an extra one for Burns night.
For sure. For sure. I started celebrating that last night, to be fair, because I'd been away for the week. Mrs. P, it was actually her suggestion, should we have a drink tonight? So we did last night. I'll have a couple of tipples during the matches today. I'm actually going to watch the Sunderland game because my pals are West Ham fans. So I'll watch the Sunderland game in honour of the West Ham team and hope West Ham are massive by the end of the day.
Come on, West Ham. Come on, West Ham. Tom says, question for Stu, if Bruno's missing tomorrow, who would you play instead of?
Miley. I think he's the obvious choice. And I would put Miley in the holding role and allow Tonali to go a bit further forward. But it's a straight swap then. I think Miley's the obvious answer.
Yeah, I would agree. Miley in there. It's all about minutes. He's played 390s. It's whether Eddie feels that he wants to protect him for the big game in Europe coming up at the on Wednesday.
You don't think this game's bigger?
I do, but it's whether Eddie does, and it's whether the owners do as well. I guess is he going to get a bit of pressure on constantly pushing on in the Champions League? I mean, who knows? I mean, remember Spurs got to the Champions League final in the past. Against Liverpool, anything's possible. Newcastle are still chasing on all 4 fronts, bizarrely, despite us feeling as if it hasn't been as good a season. So yeah, I think Miley plays. He's 19 years of age, and I think he's capable of continuing to play, games. But it's up to Eddie. We'll see. Whistler's goal, says Dean, against PSV. Did he scuff it or did he mean it?
Oh, he meant to score for sure. It might not have been executed the way he wanted to, but how many goals did Isaac score like that, or Andy Cole score like that? You know, as long as it goes in the back of the net, that's all that counts. I don't think it was the cleanest connections, but I wouldn't have said he scuffed it. You know, like scuff's more of a miss kick, isn't it? And it wasn't that. He could say as a striker that he purposely hit the ball into the ground to deceive the keeper, but I think he just wanted to get as true a connection on it as possible and keep it down after a couple of skied opportunities in the last few games. So, I don't think he scuffed it. I think he meant to score, but maybe he's not in the manner he did.
Yeah, sending our love to Gary M as well, who is in the chat. He says he hasn't been here for a while. He's got his mother living with him who's terminally ill. So our thoughts with you, Gary. Thanks for joining us in the chat this morning. Hope it's given you a bit of relief. It's never easy, mate. Life's not easy. Is there any news on sponsorship, George? We don't have a direct line to the club, sadly. I wish we did at times, especially after the thing that we covered last night about disabled supporters. But is there any? It was any news on new sponsorship? Nothing at the moment. No, any kind of things coming out from where you are at the moment in your part of the world, Stu?
Just rumours, Steve, and it'd be just speculation to comment on them, so it's best not to. But what is certain is that when they do get new sponsorships, it will be a big brand and it will bring in good money. They're aware of the rule changes. They voted for the rule changes, and it will give us a little bit more wiggle room, providing there's more money coming into the club. And we all know my thoughts on where they can increase the revenue stream quite quickly. And I think that's exactly what they'll be doing during the summer.
What do you think about the mooted away kit next year? Of course, Mitch mentioned it. It's a nice dark blue, isn't it, Stu?
It is. It's very nice. I think we should get it on for Harvey Barnes already and see what he looks like in it. No, it did look smart. There's a lot of kits going around. The guy who runs NUFC Concept Kits bounced a few ideas off Mitch and myself over the last week or so, and he's come out with some suggestions of what we've heard. But I really did like that dark blue one last night, and not because it was Scotland. I just think it looks smart, and I could wear it with replica shirt in a bar, pretend I support Newcastle. So it's one of those ones that you could wear quite happily. I was a big fan of it, to be fair.
Good stuff. Himanshu says, as of today, Stu, what's your strategy for the Carabao Cup semi-final second leg?
Win it. I think it's a free hit, unfortunately, if that's the way it's come about. I believe Man City would likely rest players because they're now moaning about how many minutes Haaland's playing, and they'll feel quite comfortable being 2-0 up. I think maybe we should change formation and play without a centre forward. I know that sounds strange, but I would play Elanga and Gordon up front, just the two, because irrespective of what 11 Man City put out, they will dominate the ball possession-wise. And I would tell these two, do not come back, do not come near your own penalty box. And then as soon as you get the opportunity to just hoof it and let them run after it, because both of them have got pace to burn. And that'll get them thinking, it'll push them back a bit. Then we can start bringing players on that can make a difference. And I think if we can get the first goal early on, it will be game on. So for all intents and purposes, I would say there's only about a 10% chance of us going through, and that's me being optimistic. There's still a chance, and as long as there's a chance, we've got to try, but we'll have to do something different. We're too predictable against Manchester City. They knew the changes that we would make, and they knew the systems that we were going to be playing, and I think just something different where we just hit them with pace on the attack, on the counter-attack. I think that would be the way to get behind them, because they're defensively, they haven't been sound this season. And they don't like pace, and no defender likes someone running at them with pace. So even if they just split the two and it gets hoofed that way, then Gordon can run after it, hold the ball up till the midfield comes and helps, or Elanga the other way. That's the way I'd play it, but I don't think Eddie Howe will. If he does, he can thank me later.
Good stuff. Keith says their thoughts on recruitment team down the road, their ability to find players, and their manager's willingness to play without 3 months betting into a system. They're not perfect, but positive. Of course, he's talking about Sunderland's recruitment this summer. They've
been you have to compliment them on how it's worked, but they don't play attractive football. And some will say, well, neither have we this season. They're a team that will probably be broken up in the summer because the ones that have probably, I'd say, overperformed will get picked up by other clubs. I think they've brought hungry players in, people with points to prove, whether that be someone like Xhaka, who's came in to prove that he can still do it in the Premier League, or some of the younger players that they've brought in, like the, shall we say, unheralded names, to be kind. They've come to prove that they can perform on the Premier League stage. And again, giving credit to the manager, he's managed to gel this together, and they're fighting for a common cause. But commitment will only get you so far to the talent. You'll see now, I think, during the second half of the season, they won't maintain where they have been, I don't think, and I think they will slip down the table, but it's still been an exceptionally good year for them, because I think any Sunderland fan, even the most biased one, wouldn't expect them to be sitting where they're sitting at this stage of the season now. So, yeah, it's great. They've got, I think the phrase that's used often on here is they put square pegs in square holes. The system had the manager had a system he wanted to play, and he's selected players for that system. And the most important thing is they've all been into it. What's Dutch given? Double XL, Gary. Double XL's me size.
Yes, there we go. If you get Gary, if you can get it across to us, and we can give it to Stu, that would be great, mate.
I'm trying to get back for the Mackham game. I've got a couple of irons in the fire of people who I know who live in Newcastle, even though I don't support them. I want to go back and watch that game. And I've got a few months off work, so I've got a lot of travelling to do. But if I'm going back for one game, that it wants to be that. If I can't, and I'll see which other game I can get a ticket for, and if it fits in where I am on the planet, then I'll be back home for my third game this season.
Good stuff. Quick ad break. Back after this.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And a thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays, established 2020. There are no strangers in our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2026 tours, 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Website www.unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Big welcome to GC Competitions, a new sponsor. A day none of us will forget. This is your chance to win this stunning Newcastle United signed Carabao Cup final winners display with replica medal. For only $1.99 a ticket, you can be the proud owner of this piece of Toon history. The draw will take place on Sunday the 18th of January. Don't miss out. Get your tickets now at www.gccompetitions.co.uk. If you want to support the channel, you can hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the channel and click share to your social media. If you like to listen to us as a podcast, you can find us on Sports Social Podcast Network or iTunes or Spotify or other podcast providers.
All right, welcome back. It is Ask Stu, and plenty of questions still in the bank. So if you haven't got a question, don't worry. Question for Stu: who else do you think will sign a new contract? And yeah, obviously Botman has signed. Talk about Bruno potentially committing. Who else do you think will get nailed down this season?
I'd like to think the 2 fullbacks too. Quickly, the Hall and Libramentos, and I think, to protect, I know it's not he's running until 2029, but I'd give him an extension. Will all 3 sign? We'll find out over the next few months. But something I've said regularly on here, Steve, is we've got to look ahead and think, right, which of these players will be in our team in 2 years' time. I think Miley needs to be tied up on a bigger contract as well, for certain, because he's going to be one of the lowest paid players in that squad, if not the lowest. And he's not playing to that level. He's playing to a much higher level, and he's only going to get better. You know what I mean? He's going to continue to become, I think, a mainstay in the team, and quite probably for England as well. And we shouldn't take it for granted because he's a local lad. We can pay him less. If he was, for example, like an Italian or a Brazilian, he'd be coming in on a very big contract, and I think he needs to be rewarded and secured.
Okay. Yeah. Is there a chance that Trippier could extend his contract with a coaching role included?
That changes with a win, doesn't it? 1 minute he's looking to get away. Not looking to get away. He's open to a move away. Then he's happy to stay. I would say this will be his last season in the Premier League. I think he knows it as well as anyone else does. I don't think they'll give him another playing contract because of the size of his salary, and he's not going to be a regular starter, even if he was still in the squad next year. So I think that his contract will run out, and I'd be surprised if they renew it on the same terms to stay in the squad. But ideally, would love him to stay in the coaching squad. He's proven himself, even from day one, or not day one, but when he was injured in his first half season. He went on every away game, and he was always on the touchline and encouraging. And he's got a wealth of experience, and he comes across very well with it. And he's obviously got the respect. It's clear he's got the respect of all the players. So to keep him in and around the club would be a good move. To keep him on the same salary wouldn't be a good move with financial fair play.
Himanshu is just basically saying that what he meant about the Carabao Cup is, would you go full strength, or is it an option to rest players with us having tough fixtures around that game?
Well, no, but I wouldn't go full strength. I would change the formation, which would allow like the Brunos, Wissers. Well, hopefully Bruno's fit for them, but Bruno and Wisser and people like that to come on. If we can get a goal, get them shaken. I've watched a lot of Man City. You don't get much choice over here. They're normally the first team on beIN Sports, whichever day they're playing. If it's a Saturday like today, the 3:00 kickoff, it'll be the Man City game. I know that without even checking. So when they do rest players and they come on to try and change the game, they don't seem to have the same impact. Whereas I go back to when we played Man City in the Cup last year, on our way to the final. We had Gordon, who was instrumental at the time, and Bruno. They come off the bench at half time and made a positive impact. So I wouldn't go full strength. I would change the formation and have like what you'd call some of your starting 11 in reserve to come on and either cement the position if we manage to get the lead and maintain it, or to add to it. But for me, it's one of those games where we have to mix it up a bit. And change how we play just for that one game. We did it for the 2 semi-finals last year where we played 5 at the back. So we can do it again.
My Gemma says, do you think the club will ever start talking to fans? Communication is key. If they talked, it may stop the negativity from media clowns. Well,
I know you covered it in detail last night, but that case with John Joe, it sickened me. It really did. As you know, I've met John Joe a couple of times, spent a long time, the first time, in his company with his mum, Amanda. And she's just a reminder that angels do walk amongst us. I think she does a great job. And John Joe's such a nice lad who wants to have a normal life. He wants to work. He managed to get a job. Unfortunately, his illness didn't allow him to continue. But to be treated in that way, it doesn't matter who is responsible, whether it's the club's own security or it's outsourced. There's a lack of human touch there. It's despicable how that was treated. Regarding communication of the club, if anyone writes to it, and I would implore lots of people to write to the club, email the club, and everything gets sent to supporter services. And I can tell you now what will happen. You'll get a stock reply back. You might be lucky enough to get through to Sarah Medcoff, who will say, I will look at this issue. Thank you for bringing it to my attention, and I'll revert back to you. So she'll answer within the time frame, and you'll be lucky to get a second reply after that. I'm still waiting 4 years later for my reply. After 2 emails, I got one reply, which was the standard answer, and then sent another one, an extensive one, explaining how I wanted to open a Newcastle United supporter shop in Bahrain, where it was going to be in one of the most luxurious malls, the most luxurious mall in the kingdom, where it gets a lot of people of wealth, a lot of Saudi visitors, and I thought it was a great way of growing the club in the region, and I never got a response to that 4 years later. So hopefully anyone who writes on John Joe's behalf does get a response and actions taken quite quickly, because whether you need this passport or not, the lads in a wheelchair, it's quite clear, especially when there's able-bodied people getting the same elevator. So I'm glad I wasn't on last night, because I would have proper teed off on it, and I've had overnight to think about it, but it sickens me, the treatment that was given, especially when I know the people as well.
Himanshu says it was a lovely moment when Miley was given the armband, but was it just for the optics? Pope was part of the leadership group and was on the field when Trippier came off.
It was. I don't think it was planned, and Eddie quite clearly stated that he was surprised, but it was a nice touch, and that's all it was. It was just, Trippier, you're up in my position here, just stick that on. There's not much to the game left. He knows what it would mean to the lad. Let's just say Trippier read the room right. I get what Himanshu was saying. There is a leadership group, Pope's there, but I think it had a bigger, I know it had a bigger positive response putting it on Miley's arm. I don't think he'll get the captain's armband again anytime soon, but there was 3 minutes left, and it's something you can say. Yes, something similar happened to Shaw Longstaff, didn't it, a couple of years ago when we were in the Champions League as well. And it was a nice touch. And in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. But for Lewis Miley, it does. And for us, seeing a homegrown player wearing that in a Champions League match, it is special, because if you read or listen to what most people are saying, the dissenters, then we're not going to be in the Champions League next season. It might not be ever again. So it could be our second last home game in the Champions League after the playoffs, if that's where we end up. Or if we get through to the last 16 automatically, then again, would we go further than that? So it could be the second last home game in the Champions League for quite a while. Hopefully not, but it was a nice touch that he walked off the pitch with the armband on.
Gary says, Stu, do you think the fans of Newcastle, Villa, Forest and others could do more about the corrupt rules? For example, lobbying and petitioning the government or independent regulator?
I think it'll just fall on deaf ears. Sadly, that's been made quite clear when they have been challenged. And if you look at what's happening with this 115 rules of Man City, which is 129, 130 actually, but 115 seems to be the most popular narrative that's stuck. It doesn't get mentioned. For me, I know that George said something last night that you would say to hang with it and go and spend the money and say take us on, because if the Premier League think that the Abu Dhabi lot have money, wait until they find out the lawyers that the Saudi Arabians could get. So, but they don't want to do that. They want to do it the correct way. But challenging it, you can alienate yourself as well. I think at the same time, I know I've said this previously as well, but winning that cup meant so much to everyone. You've seen 300,000 people turn out a couple of weeks after, and it was done the right way. We had a very hard draw, round by round, to get there, and we weren't able to go and spend at will. It was a team knitted together. It was a team built on character. It was a team built on togetherness. It was a team built on one common goal. And for me, it made it more special. I think it might have been slightly tarnished had we just went out and bought like 10 players for 80 million each. So challenging is great, and we probably could win, but as the point I'm trying to get across is it'll take a long time, because any victory would be challenged on either side and so on and so forth. And I think we're going to have to just tuck it between our legs and see how it goes for now. But I actually think we are progressing, although on the pitch, it doesn't look like in a lot of games this season, we're still up there. So I don't think it'll be bad publicity for the owners to challenge the Premier League independently.
Stu, I see Ben Parkinson scored the winning penalty for Falkirk against your beloved Hearts in the Cup.
He did. I watched the game. It was... Hearts could have been and should have been out of sight, but I was speaking to my dad last night, strangely, about it, who was at the game, and he's going there tomorrow to watch Hearts beat Celtic. And for all my life, I've listened to the biased Glasgow referee situation. Hearts are 6 points clear. In the last 2 league games, they've had players sent off, and they're both suspended to play against Celtic tomorrow. Then last week against Falkirk, I thought they would have rested players. I thought all focus, due to the squad depth or lack of, would have been on maintaining the lead in the Premier League. They went very strong against Falkirk, 1-0 up, and then the captain, Lawrence Shankland, got injured and he's out for 8 weeks. So we've now got 3 out for the game against Celtic tomorrow. So we'll see. And the referee, if you want to check, is from Glasgow tomorrow as well, refereeing Celtic versus Hearts. So it is what it is. Keeps it interesting for a while.
Gary says, I'm giving you 100 million in the summer to go and buy one player and one player only. You choose the position, but it's up. It's to give us a real leap forward in our ability. Who would you buy?
Imagine I said exactly now. This channel will get shut down. I would buy a midfielder, and I'm trying to think of the right one. I don't think you need to spend 100 million either. That's the thing. But I would buy an attacking midfielder. The name hasn't. It'll come. I'll shout it out during the rest of the program. But someone who can make a difference with the ball.
No problem. Neil,
Peter Beardsley would have been ideal if he was available. You know what I mean?
He can still do a job, Peter. Believe you me. Definitely, he could do a job. Neil Calvert says, just on the PSR debate, Eddie bangs on about it every presser. But we sold Anderson and Minty on the back of signing Tonali, which wasn't a priority on signing another midfielder. Yet the PSR debate is still ongoing.
Well, there's this season between Tonali signing and them leaving, but I don't like this. Oliver, please, sir, can I have some more? Or begging, saying that we don't have money. We do. No, again, if we do simple maths, last year, as in the last calendar year, we sold Miggy for, say, 15 million, was it? Let's call it 10 million. Longstaff for 15, and we sold Kelly to Juventus for 20 million. So that's, 45 million there? Then 125 for Isaac takes you to 270 million. Now, we might have spent 250, but if you amortize that, you're looking at just over 40 million. We're well in credit, and we certainly do have money to spend. And I don't know why they're pleading poverty. Well, I do. It's quite clear that they don't want to say we've got loads of money. And I get it's difficult to buy the players you want, but sometimes necessity takes over. And I've said it would be neglectful if they didn't bring in resources this window. And I don't like how we always leave it late. And hopefully that will change once Ross Wilson gets his feet firmly under the table. You need players bedded in, because if you look what happened last summer, when we were able to spend, a lot of these were bought at the end of the window. Most of them after the pre-season had already been done. And it unsettles. They're very precious, these footballers, and unsettles them. These people coming in and they don't know the personalities, they don't get to know them. There was obvious exceptions. Voltemade hit the ground running and scored some crucial goals for us. We wouldn't be where we are now in the league without the goals he had scored for us. So I don't get this narrative. People saying he's not good anymore, he's rubbish. You know, it's too demanding, wanting someone to be brilliant every day. He's a young lad, just changed country, come to a place where he knew no one. He's brought his friend across to live so he doesn't get homesick. And he's fitting in very well with the squad. So things like that annoy me, but then you've got... I know they've got money to spend, and I won't go into too many details on how I know, but there is money there to spend. So anyone saying 20 million, I've seen it 20, 25 million, that might be what they've said, okay, we'll do it this way because they've got a certain amount they want to hit the summer with. But if they don't finish where they can by buying these players, I think we touched on it on last week's professionals, they're not going to affect us. We don't qualify for the Champions League or Europa League, then some of these players that we want to keep might think the club doesn't have the ambition. There was an opportunity and they didn't add to the squad when it was needed. Do we play for another year in good faith? And if they leave it late to get new signings in, we could have another similar summer to last year. And that would be our fault. That would be, when I say our fault, the club's fault, that would be on them. You know, you've got to control the narrative and show. It's all right talking, and it's all right, you know what I mean? They're talking about what they want to do. Show us that you want to do it. Show us that you mean the business and the transfer market. A Kevin De Bruyne signing, that's what I was trying to think of, but obviously Kevin De Bruyne is a bit older now. But that type of role is who I would spend that money on if I was given the choice to do it.
Okay, did you get the photo that Neil sent you?
I haven't looked. I'll have to check.
Okay, Lewis Hall is marvellous and a great team player who can thrive combining with the player in front of him. Barnes is a better option than Gordon, in my opinion, but what does Stu think?
I agree with the first part. Lewis Hall is marvellous and a great team player, and I think he looks more comfortable with Barnes. And Barnes and him seem to have. I think there's more affinity between them. There's more of an understanding between them. But that's not to deride Gordon. I think he's had a lot of criticism, but I thought he had a decent game on Wednesday. I thought he had a good first half against Wolves as well, but then petered out in the game. But we showed with Alanga, you've got to start supporting these players as well, and they will produce. So is Barnes better for Lewis Hall? I would say he is. So I would agree with that. I think for that, how that side of the pitch works, but that doesn't mean that Gordon and Hall can't work together, because I thought they did well together on Wednesday night. You know, it's just about having the trust of the players. We've seen it a couple of games ago when Hall was throwing his hands in despair because Gordon wasn't where he's meant to be. And they like to play these little systems, these little triangles. And if he's got the ball, they should always have two options, especially a defender. And if the midfield inside pass is blocked off, Gordon should be on the touchline from him instead of wandering in, hiding behind a player. You know, you can't bend the ball around a player 180 degrees to get to him. So I think Barnes shows for him more. And when we're attacking, Barnes is a more potent threat because he will be direct. But there's been signs from Anthony Gordon of running at his fullback again. And he should be doing it a lot more often. Going inside is too predictable all the time. You might as well just call him Alan St. Maximin, same number shirt. But when he hits the byline and the defender doesn't know which way he's going, that's when he can impact the game more. So, again, I think Barnes is more suited to Hall, but Hall's intelligent enough to play with both of them. You're on mute, Steve, but I can read the question.
Yeah, it's not that one I want you to read. The Voldemort question is the one I took off. And that was just saying, do you think that Eddie had a say on Voldemort coming in? Just the fact that he doesn't play that system that maybe would suit him. I mean, I think we're in the last chance saloon, weren't we? We're down to our fifth or sixth choice.
Yeah, that's my opinion of that is pretty similar to what you've just said, Steve. I don't think he was the choice, but he was the best of what was left. And I think we need to make you can't say really a luxury, but a statement signing. It had to be a player of a certain amount to say, look, we're still here, we mean business, even just to appease the other players, let alone the team. But I still think, I know people laugh at this, but I still think the ideal signing for us would have been Sesko, who went to Man United, and he's done absolutely nothing there. But I think he would have thrived in our system. But that's all conjecture because he hasn't come most and he went there. But he wasn't the first choice. It was quite publicly played out, the targets that we had, and that's something that needs to be addressed as well. It seemed to be they were getting leaked now, whether that had been from people who previously worked for the club or from the other teams or the agents wanting to get more money out of it or to force the hand of another club to go and move for them. It could be a mixture of all three of those things. But with Voldemort, I think he's got a huge ceiling, and I think he can achieve that in Newcastle. But there has to be a tweak to the system. But also, I know I've mentioned on one of the shows in the last few weeks, he has to fit into Newcastle, not just Newcastle fit into him. And he can do everything he's doing, but he can do it 10, 15 yards further up the pitch. And that way, if he loses the ball, it's not on the halfway line or in our own half, and we're straight on the defence again. But when he's getting the ball played to him, he needs the midfielders more than ever, because he's got his back to the goal. He needs the midfielders showing for him, whether that be Joelinton, Bruno, Tonali, Miley, Ramsey, Willock, whoever's on the pitch. They need to be shown for him so you can at least lay it off and get the ball moving. Because he's not always going to be able to hold it up, beat two people and thread the ball through to one of the wingers. You know, he has to have options as well. So I think some of the criticism he's getting is a bit harsh, but I think sometimes some of the defence he's received has been not actually factual either. If that makes sense, it's somewhere in the middle. He's a great player and he can come good for us, but he has to meet us halfway as a club. It's all right saying, lad, this is how I play. I play this. You're at this club now. And just move further forward, do the same thing, but do it on the edge of their box instead of in our half.
David Cook says, what does Stu think about the statement? The players were up for it when we play well. I feel if they are wearing the strip, they should be up for it against anybody.
You're right. It's one of those things. I know you had a thing with George during the week, and it was what annoys you, things like that. They should be up for it every single game. But then, without excusing them, every time you go to work, are you up for it? You know, do you give it your best every single day? Because this is their work. It's our passion, but it's their work. So you'll see certain players who will give their best every game, and it might not be good enough. You know, they'll have better performances, but I think the commitment, the 100% commitment should be a given. It shouldn't even be under debate. And that's what gets people, I think. It certainly annoys me when you see people not trying or when they're hiding. You have to have played football to know it. You know, you can see players hiding from the ball when they should be there to get it past to them. And they go wandering, or they look away, or they stop pointing the fingers at someone else to, you go there, do your job first and do your job best. And then that's how you do it. If we have people leading by example in each position, we'll be up the league in no time, up that table in no time.
Gary says, Voldemort is highly regarded in Germany. Coaches need to watch how Germany play him, as I think we have the players that can give him that service. He was the standout German player at the under-21s. Euros, and we need to have players around Voldemort so he hasn't got 2 to 3 players swarming him every time he gets the ball, says Trolls. So
he needs to be stronger as well, by the way. And I think the referees could protect him more. I think it's because of his size. The defenders always get the benefit of the doubt rather than him. How many times do you see people with their arms literally round his waist and nothing gets given? It's similar to Joelinton. If he goes near a player, he's likely to get booked. And it's quite clear that the opposition for Joelinton just want to kick him early doors to distract him from what he's meant to be doing. But Voldemort could be stronger, and I'm sure he is getting built up. But he hasn't got the physique to be a muscle man. But he needs to be a bit more resistant to the fouling.
Would you sell Asula and buy another striker, says Richard Morris?
Well, we'll have to get Asula back in the pitch because his value won't be much until he is playing again. I would like to keep him for at least the end of this season. And if he comes on in these cameos, because you can't play Voldemort and Wheater together and make that your formation because you're changing everything. And if one of them gets injured or one of them has to go off, and then all of a sudden it's not going to work. You need that backup. And so I think Asula could have a big part to play in the remainder of this season. He can come on and cause his own brand of chaos for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And I would like to see him coming on to replace, if they are playing 4-4-2, to replace Voldemort and get us further up the pitch, or replace Wisa to keep us up further up that pitch. I think he can do it. Would I like to keep him? It depends on how he performs in that team. He has potential. Whether he's going to fulfill it or not, I don't know. But he's probably one of the most likely ones to be sold in the summer. You mute again. Is it this question asking?
Yeah, do you think we'll get a new stadium, says Mandy?
Yeah, I do think we'll get a new stadium. But the next question that is when, I really don't know. I thought they would have been announced by now. I thought they would have had, especially with the Euros coming on, it would have been great to have some because St. James is holding games in the Euros. So you know how they do the drone shots and stuff like that. You could see the infrastructure of the new stadium behind it getting built. You know, the new Newcastle and things like that. That would, to me, appeal to the owners. It shows that they're spending money. It shows that the growth is there. It shows that the commitment's there. And I'm surprised it hasn't. But if it is announced this year, within, you've got at least 9-10 months before you see anything come out of the ground. You know, you have to do your excavation and your vibro compacting, and you've got to drain that lake. And there's rumours now there's oil underneath there as well. I don't know how true that is, but imagine if it was. So how ironic would that be?
With the window heading quickly to the end, do you think our squad is strong enough to last the season as it is?
No, I think it needs added. And again, if they don't add to it, you can come up with any excuse you want. But I'll give a brief little math explanation before there. Money spent to money coming in last summer. And because we were level with PSR going in, that we knew we had money to spend prior to Isaac being sold, our balance book should be very, very healthy. And I think Stephen Borson said something similar this week. It's not often I agree with him, but I choose to on this occasion because he agrees with what I've been saying.
Who would you like in the next round of the Champions League, says Tom?
Well, we've got to get there first because it'll only be the last 16. So, sorry, the playoffs. We'll be seeded in the playoffs if we don't beat PSG because we'll have to beat them because of the goal difference. That means we'll be playing one of the teams that finished 17th to 24th, which should work in our favour over 2 legs and us being at home in the second leg. After that, who would I like to see us play? Depends if you want to continue going through the rounds, or do you want one of those glamour-ties away to someone like Bayern Munich or Real Madrid? But I'd like to see us get into the last 16. And then I think we've proven we're a cup team. In a one-off games, we can beat anyone. And if that one-off game, if we can get a draw or even a 1-0 defeat away, a one-off game at home, we can beat anyone. And we've proven that.
Are you going for a 3-1 win tomorrow, Stu?
I'm back to 3-1, but I think we'll win 2-0.
Okay. Roger, do you think our stars are getting enough rest? I've got injury anxiety here.
I think we all have. Are they getting enough rest? I don't know. I'm a bit old school where you had players playing 60-odd games a season on quagmire, you know. Yes, these are playing on Bowling Green services, and I know the game's changed and it's more fitness-wise now, but I think what causes a lot of the injuries, and it's been touched on previous shows as well, is this VAR, especially at this time of year, and especially for the muscle injuries. The players stand around for 5 minutes in the cold, and this is where the medical team should be saying to them, keep moving, just do some shows, keep warm, because if you're basing your game on sprinting or running, which a lot of our team do, and then all of a sudden it's like you're playing in nigh on freezing temperatures, and you've stood still for 5 minutes, you get the euphoria of a decision going your way or the disappointment of it not, and then all of a sudden you're back into sprinting again. I think that's something that's going to change, but I don't think we've got a squad strong enough to maintain, well, not even maintain, to challenge, to push for the Champions League. But it can only take one signing, one new face could make a massive difference. And that's where I am with it. And I think we have the money, and I still think it would be wrong if we don't spend it.
Have a good weekend, Stu. See you next week. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, 9 o'clock in the morning for Three's a Crowd. Take care. Bye-bye.